Thank you, Philip. Appreciate that. It's such a pleasure to be here tonight with you at Pinellas Park. I think the last time I was here was 2014. It's not been 1900, but 2014. And so almost 3 years. So it's glad to be back and to get a chance to get better acquainted with some of you here this evening. We do appreciate your congregation. I think Ed referred to that earlier about how long you support us, and yes, you have. In fact, I've pulled some quick records. Our computer database only goes back to 96. I know you've been a faithful monthly donor to us since that time, and probably a lot longer, maybe a lot longer than that, but we know that's more than a 20-year record I don't think you've ever missed a month and given to us. So we appreciate that very much. And we do rely heavily on congregations, like yours, for support. We get no tax money at all, so all of our support does come from congregations and from individual donors, of course. And so we appreciate what you do. But you help us in other ways too. You always have a table or more at the Tampa dinner. It's always good to see some of you there. How many of you who are here tonight have been to one of our Tampa benefit dinners? Okay, quite a few of you have. So you've heard the story and you know us probably quite well at this point. I will try to give some kind of value-added information tonight, some updates that weren't necessarily discussed, at least in depth, at the Tampa dinner, some information that's maybe even more recent than the Tampa dinner. But we will be back, by the way, May the 5th is the next date for that. We've already got it confirmed, same place, back at the Holiday Inn. That seems to be working out well for us, so we will be there again next year. Now, I know some of you know our story really well, and some maybe are relatively new to, what is Mount Dora Children's Home, who are we, and how we play in. So I've got a few questions I want to ask. Now, Glenn, Joanne, you all might want to keep quiet on this. I promise I will reward you later if you do with a pen. But I'm going to give out some pens tonight for anyone who can answer these questions. So raise your hand if you would, just so we can, so I know who's speaking. And then Madison or Sarah, right back here, we'll hand you a pen. So if you get the right one. What name did this ministry go under since its founding up till 2015? It's a name that probably most of you know for us. Anybody know? No, not quite. Close.
Mount Dora.
Well, actually, Mount Dora wasn't in the name. Somebody said. Okay, so Philip over here gets. Sarah's going to bring a pen up to Philip. Christian Home and Bible School was the original name, like that. So, that one, right? So you were close, sir, over here, but. So that was the original name. Now, we changed back in 2015 or so, mainly for the school's sake. Frankly, for the children's home, everyone referred to us as Mount Dora Children's Home anyway, so it didn't really matter much, and the churches sort of got it. Either name we used was okay. In the local community, trying to market a Christian academy to parents in the community, most of whom weren't familiar with us and weren't Church of Christ, didn't know our history and story, that was just a kind of an odd name, and they weren't sure why it was. Plus, we would get some interesting phone calls sometimes with a name like Christian Home. Sometimes people thought we were an old folks' home, so we'd get calls. Have you got a place for my mother? Those kind of calls. So, well, if she's between ages 2 and 18, maybe. Anyway. So, okay, now let me go to the next question here, which I almost gave away. What year was the children's home and school founded? Someone else. Joanne, I will give you a pen later. But if no one else answers, I'll let you answer. Does anyone know? Woo! Oh, wait a minute. I see what you're doing. Oh, it's on the first slide. I saw her with her phone out there, though. Okay, she's looking it up somehow. Anyway, yes, 1945. So, okay, here comes Sarah with a pen for you. Thank you. Joanne, I'll get you one later. All right, got 2 more of these. Well, I think I skipped one. How do you go back? All right, Ed, how do you go back? That one, yeah. Thank you. What did you do? In the back. Josh did. Thank you, Josh. All right. Okay. Who is president of Mount Dora Christian Academy and Children's Home, which is our full alum name, the whole entity? Anybody know the name of our president? Been president for 27 years, so a long time. You probably see him. He's a tall guy, very charismatic, very articulate, loves to tell the story. James Moore, okay, Dr. James Moore, okay. All right, here comes Sarah. Good, Dennis, thank you. He'll be happy to know that someone got the answer, okay? All right, and then the last question, which you saw, in what city is Mount Dora Children's Home located?
Mount Dora.
Mount Dora, okay, that's an easy one, all right? All right. Okay, you just never know, so I want to see if you're awake or not, okay? And thank you, Sarah, Madison, thank you all for your help, okay. This is, of course, where Mount Dora is located. If you're not sure where we are, or if you haven't been to see us yet, we'd like to extend an invitation for you to come over sometime and visit our campus. We'd love to have guests. And even if you heard the story, here at church or at one of our Tampa dinners, there's nothing like actually walking the campus. Some of you have done that, and you know what I mean. But we're in Lake County, just a little bit north of Orlando. So if you come in that direction for the theme parks or whatever you're doing in that part of the state, come by and see us. We're really not that far, a couple hours from here. So it makes a good day trip. And we love to have church groups. I think you've had some from here, but we have the Senior Saints groups, we have youth groups, we have all sorts of groups that will come. We actually just had a youth group this weekend from Panama City, Jinx Avenue, congregation that was on campus, stayed Friday night and Saturday night on our campus. We have a place where we can house at least up to maybe 10 or 12 young people on campus. For those of you who haven't seen it, at least from this view, aren't drones great? We can do all these sorts of things now with our drone. But that's an aerial view of the campus. It's 70 acres. So we were very blessed back in the 1940s to pick up this parcel. Another question, but probably none of you would know it. Maybe Glenn would, or Philip. I don't know. You know what we paid for this? 70 acres in the heart of Mount Dora. Of course, this is 1940, probably about 43 or 44 when we purchased the land. I'll give you a clue. The owners were in arrears on taxes. They had not paid their tax on the property. And so we were able to go to the courthouse and buy the land just by paying the taxes on it. I don't know if you can still do that or not. I don't know how that works. But anyway, that's the story. $2,500 for 70 acres of real estate. At the time, it was primarily, of course, pine trees and some orange groves. So it's very different now. We have 27 buildings on the property. It's fairly well developed, although there's still some land. But you can see the layout of the property there. It's a beautiful spot. And just to give you kind of a quick walk through the campus, these are our group homes. We have a home for the boys, is the kind of the white cream color building, and then the brick building there is the girls' cottage. It was built in 2010. It's a very modern building. It looks very nice. The girls have a good place there to live and enjoy it a lot, I'm sure. And this is our newest academic building. It's a science building built just about 2 years ago. Very modern labs in the upstairs laboratories. And then on the lower level, there's a student center behind the kind of dark glass there. This is a good place for the kids to hang out. It's got the big screen TVs and the sofas and a snack bar, things like that for the students. So it's a great environment for the kids. Our gymnasium is really not that new, but it's held up very well, been well maintained, and is used for lots of different functions in addition to sports. We have a good number of speaking events in there too. And then the newest addition on campus is our sports complex. It's underway right now, scheduled for completion actually in August. It will be an 8-lane rubberized track and then a combination football soccer field. We've never had soccer as a sport for the kids before at the school, and that will be added this fall, boys and girls soccer teams, to kind of round out our academic program. Academics we find are very important to the kids at the Children's Home. And yes, I'm here primarily tonight to talk about the Children's Home, not the school, but they really all tie together. Because the kids in the Children's Home, many come from disadvantaged backgrounds. Almost all of them, with rare exception, are behind academically, at least when they get to us. Some catch up, some really never do. That's just not their gift. But some of them are very gifted academically, and so these kids have a chance to excel in our academic program at the school. And what makes it, you might say, well, they can get athletics anywhere, so what's the big deal about yours? Well, here's what's different. All the coaches, just like all the teachers at school, all the coaches are Christians. And they know who's who at the school. They work carefully with the house parents. They kind of get the kids' background and profile, so they know how to work with them. Where to push, maybe where to lighten up, and they know these kids well. And coaches sometimes have a tremendous influence on these young people. I can just tell you that. A lot of times if you ask the kids when they're 16, 17, 18, they've been there a while, what was your biggest influence here? We wish, of course, they'd say the social workers or their house parents, something like that. But it's usually Coach so-and-so, or maybe a teacher at the school. So we're very excited about the new sports complex. That's the new bleachers. If you've been on campus, we've never had bleachers for the football field before. You literally sit on the hill on a blanket or a lawn chair. And so now we have bleachers. You don't have to roll down the hill when you miss a step, hopefully. And we have, of course, a variety of ways you can support that. If you're interested in that, I can talk to you later. But this is what we call the Founders Circle. You can buy a brick and have your name inscribed there for a modest fee donation. We offer several programs at the Children's Home, but the one that I guess we're best known for is what we call residential group care, which is a fancy name for the Children's Home. It's where the kids live in a dorm or a house and have house parents. The kind of traditional model for a children's home. And this is still very much a part of what we do. We get asked sometimes, well, who are these kids? How do they wind up here? And what brings them to you? So it's hard to give a quick answer to that, because the answer is every child's different. Everyone has a different background. But these are some of the reasons that bring them to us. A common one is some sort of family distress or disruption in the family. It could be a divorce or separation. Sometimes a spouse simply walking out. That happens. And by the way, it's not always the dad. Sometimes mothers walk away from their kids. Hard to understand that, but it happens. Sometimes, of course, death of a parent. We have a brother and sister in the home right now whose parents were out of the picture. I'm really not sure what happened to them, but the kids, when we came across them, they had been being raised by their grandparents. And the grandmother got dementia, and then the grandfather got cancer. Within about 3 months of his diagnosis, was dead. And so these two kids, had no one to raise them. And so they wound up with us. So they're good kids. They didn't do anything wrong. It's just a victim of circumstances. So we gave them a safe home to finish growing up in. And glad to have them with us. Sometimes there are, well, like I said, health problems. Occasionally it's an unruly child, but sometimes I think that's what people assume these kids are bad kids. Rarely really is that the case. And even when they're unruly, sometimes it's just the chemistry or dynamics in the home didn't work. I don't want to get too specific, but we had one student with us not too long ago who was in a step-family situation, and it just wasn't working. Sometimes that happens. I think everybody involved were good people. The chemistry wasn't working. So brought the child to us, and the child behaved better for us than in their step-family home they were in. The child was living in it. I'm trying not to be very specific about that. Probably the last two on here are what we see the most, unfortunately. Either abuse situations. A lot of the kids at Children's Home have been abused by someone in their family in the past. And then addiction issues, alcohol or drug addictions. So that gives you some idea of what the kid's profile is like when they come to us. And by the way, that list is somewhat similar for the single parent program that I'll talk about in just a minute. Might add too that almost all the kids that come to us come there by private placement. What we mean by that is we're not, the state's not sending kids to us. Hey, we got another case for you, come get this child. That's not usually the way it works. Actually, we have no kids there at the moment who are from the state, as we say. All of our kids are private placement. And what does that term mean? It just means that someone like you knew of a situation, maybe you heard the story here or at a Tampa dinner or somewhere, you are aware that we exist, and you know of a family in need, some kids that need a better home for any of those reasons I just mentioned, or maybe some others, and you call us. And we get together, we talk about it, have the child come over, and they wind up coming to live with us. And so that's the way the children get to us. So one of the reasons we like to go out and talk about what we do and who we are is for that very reason, because we never know when a need may exist. Maybe someone right now is hearing me talk and think, I know someone that could be there. So we want you to keep that in mind. And certainly Ed or Glenn, Joanne, Philip, there are several folks here who would know how to reach me at Heartbeat on the phone. So if you ever find a situation, there are several ways you can get in touch with us, and we'll be glad to do what we can to help. There are lots of kids in Florida who do need help. I wish we could help more of them. We only get to help a handful at a time, which is kind of frustrating sometimes, but you can see that second statistic I think is particularly disturbing. About 50,000 children in Florida are victims of abuse and neglect. And that's very sad that that's the case, but it is. We certainly know that Jesus cared about children and was compassionate toward them, so we want to follow that model, because that's one of the things we're trying to do. Of course, as Christians, we're called disciples of Christ, right? What does that mean? We're a follower. We want to see, what did Jesus do? What did Jesus care about? And then we want to act like Jesus. That's being a follower, right? A disciple of Christ. And so Jesus, certainly as we see from this example in Mark 10, cared about children. I love the verbiage here where it says, "Let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these." And then later on in verse 16 it says, "He took the children in his arms, placed his hands on them and blessed them." By the way, right before this passage, if you go back and read that in Mark 10, it says, Jesus was kind of going through the crowd. There were lots of people around him, and his disciples were trying to shoo the kids away from him, because kids kept running up to him, and they thought Jesus is being bothered by these kids. So they were pushing the kids away, so to speak. But Jesus said, no, wait, stop. And that's when he paused, took time out for his kids. So I think it's a beautiful story for us. I don't know about you, but I think a lot of times, I've been guilty myself, in our lives. We get so busy in our adult stuff. And you can even do this when you work at a children's home, by the way. You forget the kids. I can walk right past them on campus. And so, we all need to be aware of the kids in our lives. Whether you work at a children's home, or whether you're in a church, or you just got kids in your family or your neighborhood. Wherever you know children and interact with them, or maybe it's just the kids that pass by on their big wheel bikes out on the sidewalk. We need to be conscious about kids and the families that they're in, and what we can do to love and help them. Certainly getting them to come here would be a great first step, right? If they're here in your neighborhoods, encourage them to come to church with you. Then we know this verse from James. There have always been, I guess, in the first century as well as today, kids who are fatherless, kids who are orphans, kids who need extra help. And so we want to be there as a church and help these kids. And that's where you and I all partner together in this, right? We can't do what we do without you. And but also, on the other hand, it'd be difficult for a local church to do what we do. So we work together. And with the support of the local church community, places like Mount Dora Children's Home can make a difference in the lives of at least a few kids at a time. And we do like to use this slogan, we're seeking to change lives, change futures. One of the things we tell the kids is, we know you've had some hard knocks in life. We know some bad things have happened to you, but that was the past. And your past does not have to be your future. And your destiny, your legacy can be way different from what you had in the past. So, with God controlling your life, that's, of course, the secret. Not what we do for them, but with God's help intervening in their lives through Mount Dora Children's Home and through other good influences, their lives can be different. So you help make that possible for these kids. This past spring, we had our largest graduating class ever from the Children's Home. Now, the Academy had, I think, 44 graduates altogether, but 6 of them were members of the Children's Home family. And so that's pretty neat. On the other hand, it's left a little bit of a hole right now. We're down in numbers slightly because we just had 6 children walk off campus. But we're really proud of these kids for graduating from high school. And on top of that, all of them are going on to higher education. And not that every child has to go to college. We don't force that on. But all 6 of these kids wanted to go into college, and most of them are pretty academically bright. I think we'll do fine. Let me tell you a little bit about their stories, since I think by sharing this with you, this is information we didn't go over at Tampa. This will give you a little better picture of kind of who these kids are and how your donations and how your encouragement helps them. First of all, I want to tell you, these are 2 of the children in that group picture you just saw, Jasper and Athena. And these 2 kids kind of exemplify what the Children's Home potential is. Jasper came from a family that was living in an inner city, tough neighborhood in Atlanta, and were being evicted from an apartment, so the next place was going to basically be homeless in Atlanta. And these kids were struggling academically. Jasper came here, I don't know, he was probably 9th grade or so when he wound up with us. And has done very well during high school, has managed to have a decent GPA, grade point average with us. And in his senior year, as you can see here, was voted homecoming king. So we thought that was really special too. Out of all the kids in the senior class, they picked one from the children's home to be the homecoming king. But actually, they also picked Athena, who's from the children's home, to be homecoming queen. I don't know if that's ever happened before, but that's pretty neat. Last year, the homecoming king was from the children's home, but not the queen. So this year, both were from the children's home side. And let me share Jasper's story with you and then Athena's. I already told you about Jasper's background. As you can see, he has two brothers. The tall one in the middle is Josiah. He's still with us. He'll be in 11th grade this year. And then Jeremiah, who graduated the year before. Jeremiah went on to play football at Faulkner University this past year. He struggled the most of all the three kids academically. Unfortunately, he won't be able to go back to Faulkner because of grades to start his sophomore year. So he's kind of transitioned now, but he did get that shot. He got that chance. He got to spend 1 year at least at a Christian college campus and do what he wanted to do there in football. Josiah, on the other hand, is the most gifted academically of the three, the one in the middle, and has already been signed. Remember I said he's just going to 11th grade. He's already been signed to play for the University of Miami. And I understand he's had other schools after him too, but he's committed to go there. And by the way, there's a reason, everything we kind of have a reason for. What's his name? Some of you guys, who's the head coach at Miami? Okay, he is. He's not a member of our fellowship, but he's known to be a man of strong Christian beliefs and coaches the kids from that perspective. He cares about his boys that play for him, and we thought that was a good school. If he's going to go to a state school, it's a good school for him to go and play at because he'll be watched over there. And then Jasper, who just graduated, is going to go to a small school called Navarro College out in the Dallas area and has a full scholarship, which means a lot because, his mama doesn't have any money to spend on college education for any of those boys. So the fact that he's going to get a full ride scholarship, even though it's a smaller college, is great for him. So he'll be playing football in Texas. Now, Athena, I mentioned her. She comes from South Florida, from the Boca Raton area, and has a brother, Sebastian, in the program as well. Athena is one of those students who can just, whatever she does it really well. She's very gifted in almost every way imaginable. She's academically a 4.0 student, has some AP credits and all that she'll take with her to college. She was captain of the cheerleader squad, junior and senior years. She even got to go to London to perform in the Christmas parade in London with some kind of American cheerleaders group. It was like 600 cheerleaders from across the United States who were picked, and she was one of them. So she's very gifted wherever she does. And yes, she is on the softball team, which went to the state finals. They were in the Final Four for girls softball this past spring. So some good kids. Oh, she will be going to Harding University in the fall. She was also recruited by some other schools. We were afraid we were going to lose her to Harding, but she did make a decision which we think is a wise one to go ahead and go to Harding. She'll do well there. Has some good influences on her. This is the group photo again. So let me tell you just quickly about the other kids. On the top row, the boys there, in the middle is Kyle. And Kyle wants to be an engineer. And he's good academically, good in math and science, so he's got the potential to be an engineering student. Is going to Faulkner University this fall up in Montgomery. And then Jaron, on the other end there, the Coca-Cola shirt on, wants to go into biomedical engineering, which I don't even know what that is exactly, but they tell me it's a good, promising field. And so he's going to a technical school, college up in North Carolina, where he has some family. Then on the bottom row, of course, is Athena, and the white blouse, and in the middle is Sierra. Now her parents are house parents with us, Chris and Tanya Hagan, but Sierra is going to Freed Hardeman, starting her work there, and she wants to be a nurse. Jamie is also enrolled at Faulkner University. They seem to be winning a lot of our students here lately. It kind of goes in cycles, as far as which college the kids go to. And Jamie, I think, is journalism or English or something like that, one of the liberal arts majors at this point. So some good kids. Now, I mentioned that in addition to the group care, we have a single parent program. And the single parent program is something we started 6 or 7 years ago for single parent families who are in kind of a turnaround situation, need some extra help. Sometimes when it's typically the mother, we do have one dad, but typically they didn't plan on being a single parent. Things happen sometimes pretty quickly. All of a sudden they find themselves having to support a family on their own, financially, emotionally, every other way. And many times they're simply overwhelmed. They may not have a family support system to back them up, may not have financial resources. So if they qualify for our program and are willing to abide by our terms, we'll let them come and live for 2 years on our campus, rent-free. We'll put them up in an apartment on our campus and give the parent, the mom or dad, a chance to go back to school or work on their education so they get a better job and support their family when they get out. And we're pretty flexible about extending that time limit. We've got, I know, at least 2 right now who are probably well into their 3rd year. Maybe I've already hit the 3rd year mark. But if they're making progress in their schooling and they're behaving, we give them some latitude in that way because we want them to be successful. And the kids get to attend the school free of charge while they're there with us. Now, the reason I brought this in right now, let me go back to that group picture and show you the impact the single parent program has had on our program. On the top row, again, Jasper is from the single parent program. His mother's named Maria. And I'll show you a slide on her, Marie. I'll show you a slide of Marie in just a minute. Kyle in the middle, his mom graduated from the single parent program when he was in 11th grade, toward the end of his 11th grade. Our decision was made to move him over to the boys' dorm, to let him finish with us, because his mother moved back to Mississippi, where she was from. And so that was a blessing for Kyle to get to finish school with us. And there was no tuition charged to that family because they didn't have any money. And so we wanted Kyle to be able to complete school with us where he had started. And then Jared on the top row, also his mother's from Puerto Rico and is in the single parent program right now. On the bottom row, not the first 2, Athena or Sierra, but Jamie, I guess that would be what, your left over here? Jamie is also from the single parent program. And let me tell you about her mother. That photo on your left is Jamie's mother, Wendy. She recently earned an associate's degree and is now working at UCF on a bachelor's degree. So she's making good progress. She's a good student, working really hard on her major. Her situation, by the way, she was gainfully employed, had a decent job, but it was a manual labor job. She got some pretty severe back problems and could no longer do her job and was let go. So here was a woman who, was trying her best to support her family, and then the circumstances happened and changed and she couldn't anymore. And so she is now retraining for a job that she can do that won't require manual labor. Okay, the other woman picture there is Marie. That's Jasper's mother. She is the first one in our program, in the single parent program, to earn a bachelor's degree. So she earned a bachelor's degree in business administration, I guess, last spring. So we're really proud of her and what she can accomplish. She has now graduated from the program, but the boys are being allowed to finish schooling, with us. I guess Josiah is the only one still there. He's got 2 more years. The single parent program is actually featured in the current issue of the Christian Chronicle. I don't know if any of you get this at your house or if there are any copies here at church, but if you see the front page story of the Christian Chronicle is about the Mount Dora single parent program, which is pretty neat. And if you don't get the paper, there's an online version. It's free of charge. You can just go to christianchronicle.org and you can find, it might be thechristianchronicle.org, I'm not sure. But anyway, you can find this online, and the story should be easy to find if you go there now, because it's still the kind of the lead story on their website, or one of the lead stories. So they did a fine job of coverage, so if you want to know more about that program, that's a good place to look. And as I said, you may again be thinking, well, I know someone that might be a candidate for that. That's another reason I come out and talk, so be happy to talk with you later tonight, or you can call me during the week, and we can discuss that. I will refer you to our social service people, but since you don't know them, feel free to call me, and I can talk to you for a moment and then pass you over to Chuck or Johnny, our social workers. Now, to keep all these programs going, of course, we need help from people like you, and you've been great to partner with us and help over all these years, and we thank you for that from the bottom of our hearts. But there are some things we'd still like to ask you to either do or continue to do. And one of the first ones is just to pray for us. And I really mean that sincerely. This is not a throwaway slide. You know, some speakers just pop one in because it sounds good. If you can't do anything else for us, pray for us. You know, if you couldn't give to us anymore, I hope you can, but if you couldn't give to us anymore, if you'll pray for us, the Lord will provide. It'll come from some other source. I believe that by my heart. We need the prayers of Christians for this ministry, you know, that we'll have the vision and resources to do what we need to do. But also, too, as you're hearing these slides, you may be thinking, well, I want to pray for the kids. Maybe you want to pray for these graduates, because you know what? That transition from living in a children's home to going off to college is a big transition. And some kids make that successfully, some don't. Let's be honest with you. Some of the kids flounder. Even if they go to a Christian college, they still don't make it. You know, they get in trouble or they fail academically, different things happen. So you might want to say, well, I'm going to pray for those 6 kids who just graduated, or for the other kids in the program. Maybe you can sympathize with the house parents and you want to pray for them. They have a 24/7 job. They probably have, in my opinion, the hardest job at the children's home. Probably not the highest compensated job either. You know, so house parents have a difficult job. I hope it's rewarding for them, but it's hard. So pray for them. Or perhaps the single parents, or the social workers that work with the kids and the single parents. So wherever your passion is, where you feel in your heart, we would appreciate if you would really commit to pray. Did you see this movie, War Room? So you saw it? Awesome movie, just inspirational. And this woman kept a list of what she was praying for, and then she could check them off when the prayers were answered. And I know we don't always see those answers immediately, but I thought it was so cool that she kept a written list, you know, to pray about in her closet there. You all participate in our coin can drive, and appreciate that. And Glenn and Joanne have done a good job. I believe you all manage that here, and we thank you for that and for everybody who contributes to it. And I'd really like to see that step up. I've talked to peers at other children's homes where they raise more money than we do, so I know there's more potential out there for that program. We've got a few congregations that really knock it out of the park, and let me share one with you of what they do for us. This is a little church down LaBelle. Probably has 50 members on a good Sunday, so it's not a big church, and not a particularly wealthy area, kind of in the interior of the state. But the preacher there is what's made it happen. In that case, it could be anyone. The preacher gives a challenge to the congregation each year. Now, Ed, you're not going to like that I'm talking about this, okay, when you hear what he does. But each year he says, hey, if you'll raise this much money, I'll do this. Now, he sets the bar pretty high. We're talking, you know, $5,000, $10,000. But he said, if you'll raise this much money from Mount Dora, here's what I'll do. And one year, as you can see here, he said, I'll kiss a goat. So, of course, every year they met the challenge. You know, who wouldn't? So they go find the money so they can watch the preacher kiss a goat. Another year, he let them shave his head. I saw a video on this. It's pretty cool. After Sunday morning service, they all just kind of walked out together to the front lawn, put one of those barber's capes around him, and they shaved his head right there in the church watching and everyone taking pictures. So he's got a good sense of humor. And so, you know, every church does it differently, but that's one that has excelled. They have, in their best year, they raised over $20,000 for us. I don't know how they do that with 50 members, but they do somehow. As you can imagine, thank goodness for us, they're not all in coins. It's mostly checks. This is his recent one. This actually came into the office Friday. He said, hey, here, he texted this to us, said, here's my challenge to the church for this coming year. Raise at least $5,000, and the preacher Steve will eat none of these for 1 year. He says if you raise at least $10,000, preacher will drink no Dr. Pepper. Apparently he's got a big craving for Dr. Pepper, and everyone knows it. Oh yeah, the 5,000 is I will not eat any Reese's Pieces, I believe is what it is. Yeah, so for a whole year. So that must be his 2 weaknesses. Oh, I don't know. Maybe he says I'm only kidding. I don't know. Yeah. This is a little, well, not that small, church up in High Springs, Florida. And in this case, the kids got behind it. Actually, the 2 girls on the right are High Springs. The other girls from Jacksonville. But these 2 girls at High Springs, their parents were in charge of the collection, and the 5-year-old girl, the older one there, every Sunday, no one really told her to, but she came in just kind of instinctively, grabbed a can and started working the crowd. And she would just kind of go from row to row and give them that sweet smile with a little bow in her hair. And they collected money. They collected $2,600. Again, I don't know, High Springs, maybe 100 or so, not sure, but it's a mid-sized congregation, and that was a nice amount for them to collect for us. We were very excited. So every congregation does it differently, but we appreciate what you do for us in that regard. The food drive, we do one in the Tampa area every fall. This year it will be October 23rd through 25th. We'll be sending you more information about that later, but we appreciate anything you can do there to help. I think this is actually the Bell Shows congregation. So I like the food drive because it's very tangible. It's something that when visitors and other people come in, they can see, hey, this congregation cares about the community. They're doing something to help people, donating food. And it's a very easy thing for every family to add a couple items to the grocery list and bring something in. And we provide a list to the church. So we appreciate if you can help us in that way. And of course, obviously, like every nonprofit, we need individual donations. The majority of our money actually does come from individuals, not from church budgets. Both of them are important, but we get more from individual donations. And so if you're in a position to help at any time in the future, we appreciate that. Also, too, if you have a vehicle that you're not using anymore, you can donate that to us. We take all kinds of vehicles, not just cars. We've had RVs, motorcycles, boats, you name it, any kind of motorized vehicle we can take and use. And then finally, none of us can take our money with us, right? When we leave this earth and go to heaven, the money, all the assets we've accumulated, property, stocks, bonds, retirement accounts, life insurance proceeds, all that stays here. And so someone's going to inherit all that. And so we would ask you just to think about remembering the Lord's work in your estate. And if you're married, that's a good topic to talk about. If you've got an attorney or someone or a financial advisor that works with you on your finances, that's a good subject to bring up at your next meeting. And that doesn't have to be just Mount Dora Children's Home. Frankly, I think every Christian ought to remember first the local church. So, if you're going to give to anybody, remember this church has meant a lot to you and your family over the years. So, but if you're going to give to other causes, certainly we would appreciate being remembered as part of that. It can be a dollar amount. You can say, I want to give $10,000, or it could be a percentage. You want to give 10%. However you want to do it, we would appreciate that. And again, Tim Deem and I both work in that area quite a bit. If we could be of any help to you, provide more assistance, we'd be glad to talk with you or your attorneys at the proper time. As I mentioned at the beginning, we love to have groups or individuals come over. So if you're ever coming through our way, come and see us. It's nothing like seeing the Children's Home in person. It is a beautiful campus. We're very blessed to have what we have there. And I want to leave my contact information here with you too. I've mentioned several times you can call me or email me, or here's the information if you would like to have it. But again, several folks here in the congregation know how to reach me if you don't write this down now. Children are important. We believe that. Children are not just future, they're the present too of the church. And we want to love children the way Jesus loved children. But first of all, if we're going to model what Jesus did, we've got to be followers of Christ. And we've got to first give our own lives to Christ. Now, I know I'm probably talking to most folks here tonight who have taken that step. You've obeyed the gospel. You put your faith in Christ, confessed Him before men, repented of sins, been baptized. You've taken those steps. If you haven't, if I happen to be talking to anyone who hasn't, that's the best first step you can take. If you're going to influence others, adults or kids, you need to first be setting an example yourself, for them. And that can also mean, too, just being the best parent you can be to your own kids. If you've got kids at home, or got grandkids maybe at home. A lot of grandparents are raising their kids now, or at least keeping them part-time. What an opportunity to set the right example for them, and then to love them the way Christ loved kids, and to share the story of Jesus with your children or grandchildren as you have the opportunity. Whatever your needs may be tonight, whether you need to just pray for commitment, encouragement, if you've got something you need to bring before the elders to talk about, whatever your needs may be tonight, please come forward as we stand to sing the invitation song.
Are you sowing